No, it's all good, brother. And it's just so anybody that's watching this. Henry, the chat. It's been a while, my friend. I don't know when the last one we did was, a couple of years maybe. And this will go on the same channel. So I think I did put the last chat with Henry on my Liam channel. So welcome, brother. But before we continue, just wanted to put this perspective across to anybody who does watch this, that Henry sent me a message the other day asking about, or sent I a message asking about linking a video to the physics that I speak of. And I couldn't think of one. I couldn't think of one that contained bits and pieces. I'm sure they are out there, but I couldn't think of one. So this chat's going to be more about the physics, metaphysics, the reasons, the virtues, the honors, and all the rest of it. Try to pull a lot of this together so one can get more of a fundamental concept of what it is that's going on right now, and maybe alleviate some of the confusions, some of the misdirections, some of the other parts and bits and pieces. So wonderful to speak to you, bro. And I'm looking forward to what it is that we come out with. Or where should we start, my friend?
Well, we can start with physics, I guess. Like you said, I remember when we were in Scotland, you were talking to me about, this concept that is around, that I've heard before. But the way that you speak to it was more refined, I could say, where every particle in creation is instantaneously every moment, exploding and imploding upon itself. And from that perspective, everything is brand new every moment, and it's interesting to see, like some of these spiritual teachings or teachers talking about how we can just live in that moment, in this moment, with the presence of God. And it's interesting to see from there how we can move into creating a world where we all get to experience God without being subjected to any kind of nefarious things, which a lot of people maybe in the spiritual world don't wish to look at, because they're with God and they're in their presence of God, and not necessarily focused on creating the whole world in peace and harmony, which is what GPMS is talking to. So maybe we can kind of talk to that kind of link it all together through physics and other higher truths. Yeah.
Perfect, brother. Well, I mean, the thing you're talking to there is temporal the toroidal field generation and how that works, and frequency and harmonics. Without going into the depth of that creational space and how toroidal fields are come into and out of creation, or the energetic inputs to that, because that gets quite deep. What we can do with a lot of this stuff is look at what it does as opposed to why it does. And it's the other way around, why it does it as opposed to what it does. So what I tend to do with a lot of this is try to get away from a lot of the concepts that take you into a lot of detail and go to an overview, functional look at what's happening. Why is it happening as opposed to what does it look like? And lots of people get stuck on the form of what it looks like or what it seems to be. And they don't necessarily carry that through to the why, which is the functional part of it. What's it for? Why is it doing it? Not what it looks like, not what it seems to be, but what's happening. The more objective overview. Now, when we get tied into details and smaller parts of this, we lose the objective overview. And effectively, on the path, on the mission, on what everybody's doing, they'll find that they've gone through patterns. They've gone through cycles. They've gone through, it's almost like a pulse. It's like breath. I call it a divine algorithm. And it's the flow of the cause and effect. It's the flow of information. It's the flow of receipt and return, cause and effect. And we all go through this. We all cause causes. We all create things. And then we receive the effects of them. We create a cause, we receive the effects. We create a cause, we receive the effects. And this flow is how we move. Many people are unaware that they are the cause, causality. So what they receive is for them and not to them. So they don't find, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And of course, a lot of this is lost inside the subjective mind. So let's just start with a little bit of this. Function is not what it looks like. Function is what it's doing and why it's doing it. Form is what it looks like, and form can be infinite. Function is very, very designated and very designed, but form is infinite. So this is where we have the experiences in the form, but the function of those experiences is harmonics. It's harmony, it's growth, it's experience, it's creation in general. There are some other things here that's ongoing with regards to missions and with regards to designations and other things. But as an overview, what this is a creation experience. Each soul is animating a physical vessel and is experiencing temporal space. Their function is to explore and all these. The form in which they take is their own creation. That's their unique identifications. That's their unique characteristics, and their unique brilliance is highlighted in the form. But the function of it all is to work in unity. The function of it all is to create harmony. The function of it all is to create flow, peace, love, harmony, all of these good things. And that function is where we find the faults. The function is where we find the issues. There's corruption in it. So the function is missed. The form looks like all sorts of things. And the form gets reified as if the form is the most important thing. And it isn't. It's why is it happening? And that's the bit that gets lost inside these. That I thought you said in the prison of God, but you said in the presence of God. So these ones that are in the prison of God are stuck in the form, believing themselves to be something and not necessarily looking at the function. And it's the function that carries all the information about the outline of the form. So the function could be love, peace, harmony, loyalty, trust, respect, honor, integrity, virtue. They're all functions. But in the form, do we use these, or do we suggest that we might? And this is where it all falls down, brother. So yeah, this is where we are with a little of this. So I just wanted to put a little bit in there of form and function, because this will probably come up a few times in this. We get lost in the form thinking there's lots of different ones when there isn't. There's only really one. And we don't notice the function, because if we look at that, then it shows us how we may be lacking in our actions. Function is more true to what would be divine God, as opposed to believing God and just justifying your actions on the basis of belief. Functions can come with gnosis. Functions come with knowledge. Functions come with embodiment and experience. They come with a prescribed set of outlines. Superficial, nebulous ideas don't. So they can be all sorts, if that makes some sense, brother. So that's what I put in for the start of that. I don't even know if that answers your question. It just felt like a little bit of a ramble, and going around some houses, but sort of foundationally. So where should we go now, my friend? Pick a piece of that and throw it back at me.
Okay, so let's look at it or like from the perspective of GPMS. Could you want to talk about the function of GPMS in this now, and the function of GPMS in the future that we wish to create, and what that looks like, making that transition, or creating this reality, and in this now of transitioning into it. Yeah.
Let's take GPMS out for the moment, and let's talk about an individual function of virtue and honor and integrity and unity on the inside. Most souls on this planet have experienced a separation, have gone through a division, and they are resistant into many ways of unity, because they believe themselves to be individual. And this is a lot of this is down to the cascade effect of emotional immature is the wrong word. Misunderstanding. So feelings have been hacked. Emotions have been hacked. The human complex construct has been hacked. It's been utilized nefariously, and emotionally. Humans are emotion. Souls are emotion. Souls are loving, and that's been utilized against ones. So this has created a flaw, a corruption in the coding of all the functions. So what we're talking about now is coming back to an original blueprint. This is functionally perfect, and then the form partakes of that. So we're putting a lot of this stuff in the consciousness, in the energetics of Gaia and more, into a place where GPMS will be realized and manifest. Now, GPMS itself is part of a vehicle. It's a functional form. It's something where people can get around and unite, but it hasn't got form. It doesn't need form because the people bring the form. The souls within it bring the form. GPMS is the pure function. So it's the boundary, it's the outline, it's the border, it's the causality that doesn't bring negative effects. So GPMS at its core is a pure cause, and all of the effects then will be benevolent. So when you're doing things from a purity, when you're doing things from selflessness, when you're doing things that aren't for gain or profit or motivated by lesser greed, lack, scarcity, then there's harmony. This just amplifies, magnifies, magnitudes. But when you're doing things from a lesser place, they fail and they collapse and they fall apart. They give you short-term gratification, but long-term they collapse. They give you short-term relief, but long-term they take you into despair. When they're functioning correctly, they don't. Short-term gratification is released for long-term solidity, neutrality, and peace. Peace replaces despair. And so in each of these cyclical patterns, I'm sure, brother, you can recognize it in the last 6 months, my friend, how many things you've started and they've collapsed. You've started and they've collapsed. Blame aside, they haven't worked. So the outcome of these events, these outcomes were not as you would have maybe anticipated. That doesn't mean to say they weren't divinely perfect, but they would have caused, and I know they did, brother, so we can be open about it, they would have caused some internal confusion. They would have caused a loss of self, an internal what's going on, a despair or a sideways movement or a loss of self, an uncertainty, and all of these things are based in doubt. They're all based in a place that is not true. They're based in a place of ignorance or not knowing. Now, where did they come from? Where did these doubts come from? You'll tell me openly that you are a child of God. You will tell me openly that you are a God, and I will agree with you 100%. So how can you be confused? How can you fall into despair? How can you fall into confusion? How can you fall into a distraction if you are God? And this is the parts of the mind that get involved, the consciousness that get involved in different ways with hiding and deceiving from within. And I think this is what we need to be talking about a little bit first, is the deception within to release the deceptions without. And this is not a deception, yet many will look at it as if it is, because they're still being deceived from within. And once we can get past that, then this is obvious and people will unify to it. So we've got to get past some of these belief systems first, my friend. And if we can talk about them and put them into some sort of perspective, then we can see the beauty of this so much clearer. So there we are for a
Yeah,
second.
great. Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So yeah, with GPMS, I since the beginning, I knew from within that this is the highest choice for us all to make, the reality I came here to experience and co-create in the transition of us getting there. But yeah, it's at the same time, it's amazing how much programming, conditioning, I've become aware of at different stages, like you're just talking to. And yeah, to truly stand in that integrity of the presence of God, but in the presence of virtue and the highest truth that I know, and embodying that has been a really big journey. And it's interesting to look back on, even though I knew about GPMS and the higher truths on a human level or on a conditioned level, I was still wanting to be perceived or receive, like a loving interaction with others according to where they were at. And I would maybe identify with lower aspects of myself so that we could interact in a certain way, not because I was judging where others were at, but just because it was like a natural impulse of you know, just loving others and wanting to be in this harmony. And yeah, I would share GPMS with others, but it was kind of like I'm just trying to think of a couple of experiences where yeah, I could speak my highest truth and I would talk about GPMS, but then in other areas, maybe I wouldn't exemplify it, and then I could see that others would maybe doubt the whole truth of GPMS because I wasn't fully standing in it myself. And truly, I didn't know how to with the environment I was in. And yeah, it's now I feel like that cliche of being born again, where I really I don't know exactly, I don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but
Let me just
I'm letting go of all. Yeah, go ahead.
before we continue, I think where we're at is for anybody else that knows I or listens to some of the stuff that I put out. I don't know, but I'm guessing somewhere around the stage of self-acceptance, which is the release of the death and the entrance to the rebirth. So you may be on the cusp of that, brother, where the death parts of it, those aspects, those feelings of despair, have been released by an internal switch that you've thrown to honor you, to honor the virtue, to honor what it is that you represent. If you are a divine being and you believe that to be true, how do you present yourself in front of all the other divine beings that are here? These questions, when we look at another, if we are divine, so must they be. It doesn't matter what they present to us, it's how do we present ourselves to them. And that role is not easy when you're trying to fit in or sympathize or lower consciousness to suit and move around, because you can end up dropping into frequencies which are distorted and therefore causing a more significant drop or return of investment, if you will, which comes back at you and kicks you in the knee or kicks you in the shin. So we end up with this sympathy, but sympathy is there's two different types of sympathy. And I'd like to let's bring this back again to a couple of basic things with regards to action. And this leads on to what we're going to be talking about a bit later. Action is based on, we can make the things very, very simple. We don't need complication. This wants well, actually sacral. The deceiver wants complication, but love is simple. So if you are God, then are you acting as God or are you acting as less? If you are God, if you are a soul, if you are a divine being, are you acting from that level or are you acting from another place? So one would be considered to be being. Are you being your truth? And the other one would be doing lesser things. So one is, it's always a choice. It's a gate. Everything that we do is basically on, off, yes, no. And there's gray areas in between that we use to justify. But really, there's only yes, no. Well, maybe no. It becomes a yes or a no in the end. So there's no reason to argue about gray areas or discuss them. We could say, I acted in my highest or I didn't. And that should therefore be open then to discussion for refinement. Now, if you didn't and you start to defend yourself, then you are acting from a place of shame. Justification, excuses are acting from a place of shame as opposed to acceptance and refinement. So defense of one's position, aggressively even more, and any forms of anger, they're all pride-based. They're all based in a choice that is lesser. If you can accept another's opinion and you think, okay, well, that's virtuous and I understand what they're saying and I may take it on board and I'll think about it, without denying it, without putting excuses in and without putting justifications in, that's courage or love, as people would call it. So down underneath is fear and up above is love, for want of a better word. Or down underneath is a lack of love and up above is love, light, darkness, or a lack of light. 2 seconds, brother. Yeah, so we can work from a higher choice or a lower choice. And if we can look at higher and lower, then we can represent an awful lot more inside of the human construct. A higher consciousness and a lower one, a higher heart and a lower one. These all work the same way. So one is a aligned choice, a non-distorted choice, a non-corrupt choice, an innocent choice, a courageous choice, a childlike choice of acceptance. The other one is a much more devious, manipulative one that tends to want to justify one's actions and blame others for their actions, etc., etc. So these are where we've been, and I'm sure many you, brother, and I know I did the same things. You know, I blamed many people for what I was doing or what they did to I. Of course, that was all false, and I wasn't honoring my own truths. I was judging myself by judging other whatever, and not being my truth, not being. So I spent my time doing things rather than being my truth. These are the things we must honor. We must understand that we are worthy of these things. So honor, integrity, and virtue are the three key things for I, which would be your sword, your shield, and your belt, I think they call them, the armor of God. But you can only wear these, you can only adopt these, you can only employ these if you're worthy of them. And the only way you can be worthy of them is if you honor that worth. Do you value these tools? Do you value those worths? Do you value virtue? Do you value honor and integrity in you? Or do you think that everybody else around you is the ones that you should value? Of course, you can see how this comes back round to GPMS later with that intrinsic value as opposed to extrinsic value. So the mind itself starts to, there's lots of different ways inside of looking at all of this, but ultimately what ones wish to be is in their hearts all the time and let their hearts drive them and their minds guide them. But if you're in your lower heart with your lower mind, it may represent itself as your higher choice, or it may represent itself as absolute. The key to this is then to reflect on it honestly. So when we're looking back on what we're doing, are we looking at what we did honestly? Are we taking self-accountability? Are we responsible for what it was that we did? Forget that. And that's where another one of the fall downs comes in, with this lower mind very cleverly manipulating the thought processes, through emotion and through feelings, to believe itself to be absolutely true or self-righteous. Now, self-righteous doesn't need anybody. It's got, that's it. I'm right, you're wrong. Full stop. But it doesn't respond very well to virtuous question. Self-righteousness, it tries to defend itself. It gets quite angry if you try to poke it with virtuous, logical, conscious questions. It doesn't like it. So self-righteousness fails because it's lies, it's deceit, and deceit can't stand in the light of truth. Whereas truth doesn't, it needs nothing, it doesn't, just stands by itself. Deceit needs everybody to believe it. So deceit gets told to everybody. Truth doesn't. Truth can just exist within. And a lot of these things we can recognize if we look at the patterning, only if we put truth into these things. Now, if we don't put truth into something, if we don't look at things honestly, if we don't honor ourselves and therefore by extrapolation everybody else, honor, notice I'm not using the word love. If we don't love them, no, I'm using the word honor. If we don't honor that within ourselves, and if we don't honor that within the others, within others that are around, then are we honorable? If we are not loyal to ourselves and we are not loyal to others, if we are not true to our word, are we truthful? If we say things that we don't mean, are we truthful? If we act in a way that we defend later, are we honorable? If we deny all of these, are we virtuous? These are all questions that each should be asking, or could be asking themselves, to refine their own definitions of what it is they are doing, or why they are doing it. Actually, the what shows them the why. So it's the why that's the key, not the what. I did this because, no, come back. Let's put this right back into the truth. So in actually doing that section, in doing these parts, and in looking at this through a much wider scope, and in releasing these lesser concepts and going, you know what, honor and value and worth is worthy, is worthy. I am worthy of that. It's worth my effort and my energy following that path. If I don't, just to test it, If I start making different decisions instead of these lower ones, then what happens? And that opens up. But you can't honor the armor of God if you don't honor your own truth. And those truths are basically pushed out on a median level. You can't be ultra truthful for 2 minutes of a day and very untruthful for the rest of the day. You can't say you're this and then act in a different way. They've got to be in line and they've got to represent each other. So when we're looking at what level of frequency can you honor, it's all day long, every day. What's the average that you stay at? It's not your highest, it's not your lowest, but it's your average. And if you can drop into levels of anger, then your average is not very high, because that's a very low level. But if you don't ever get angry and you can honor the others, you can honor whatever they say. If you can't get angry because you understand what it is that you are, and therefore what everybody else is, then you are much, much higher. If you can contemplate, reflect, and stand back and take responsibility for everything without emitting negative projections, you are much, much higher. If you can carry empathy and compassion with you for everything that you do, honor every single word that comes out of your mouth via honoring the thoughts that create the word, not just the word, but the thinking behind it. Where did that come from? Why am I thinking that? Is it my purest thought? Therefore, is my word my purest action? So if you can honor that word 24/7 a day without any input, outside influence, only your own, because you know that that is all there is, then you are working at a certain frequency level. But when we get to love, my friend, and when we're talking about love, love is nebulous. Love is, and I use these words, many people have got different terminology for love, but love, in a collaboration not so long back, we weren't allowed to use any words to describe love, because if we did, we would limit it. Love is not a thing, it is a function of creation. Its job is to create harmony with consciousness and a few others, which I'm unaware of at the moment. But there are all of the other smaller ones, which are the lesser ones, if you will, but they're not lesser, is the integrity, honor, virtue, and all of these. They're all lesser functions, not forms. It's not what they look like, it's what they do. And love is one of those. So the only way we can designate love without limiting it is to call love absolute. Now, I treated the other with love. What does that mean? It's perspective. You have a perspective of what love means. So when you talk to love, it's what you think it is. But what does the other think it is? What's their perspective of love? Have they got any idea what love means? Or is it something they're seeking, like happiness or a shadow? Does love exist as a thing? Or is love a concept? Does it only have conceptual value and it means something different to everybody? So if we're going to bring in a concept of love, surely it should have an agreement to kind of what it means. Otherwise, everyone's all over the place. You know what I mean? So when you're showing people love, what is it you show them, brother? Let's break this down a little bit. What is it you mean? I show them love. What do you mean?
I guess it could look like treating others how you want to be treated, honoring the truth and the light, the beingness within the other.
Okay. So in that, treating others as you would wish to be treated is exactly what I'm talking about. In if you are divine, so are they. So in treating them as if they're divine, even if they don't believe you, in telling them they're divine, you are an eternal being. You are my brother. No, I'm not. It doesn't matter what they say. I know you are, because I know I am. So this thing is beautiful. We can work on that so much in actually delivering to the other what we would wish to receive, especially if we look at where the other consciousness may be, being that there's an eclectic mix of consciousnesses on the planet. But we've all experienced pretty much all of them in our journeys. We've all gone through all of the levels, if you will, and just people are at different levels. They're experiencing different things. So if we can look at the individual and remember when we were at that stage, what would we have liked to receive? What would it, if I was at this stage, what is it that I would wish to receive from somebody outside of I when I was like that? And I think most of us would agree the answer is the truth. So why do we hold back the truth when we're talking to others? Why don't we give them the higher truth without fear? Because it's what we would wish for them to do for us if the roles were reversed. You know what I mean? So we can use this empathy, and we can look at this do unto others and deliver the truth. We can all agree on that. But what is the truth? And this is where it goes again. What is your truth? If your truth is I am a divine being, my first question is, are you acting upon that? When was the last time you got angry?
I don't know. Definitely 6 months ago.
6 months, okay. When was the last time you got maybe lost your temper? When was the last time you got confused? When was the last time you sat down for a day or two in doubt, dubious as to what you were going to do next or where you were going to go? When was the last time you lost faith, brother? To whatever degree.
It's interesting. Yeah, whatever degree. I mean, you could say some of, sorry, you kind of cut up a little bit there, but it's interesting for me to talk about losing faith. I don't think I ever lose faith. I just it can be more the first thing you were talking to. I couldn't quite remember now the word you used, but thinking about, like, where am I supposed to be, or the confusion, and just sitting with it. Been there in the recent days for sure, but the
Right.
faith is there because it's been demonstrated to me time and time again, confirmations that everything that I am supported, that everything does work out, and then it's interesting to look at it like from that perspective of like free will, what do I want to do versus what am I here to do, or my highest truth, and then to just sit in the highest truth is what I've been doing, and not have any expectation of what that might look like, but that divine surrendering. And when that confusion comes up, I'm very aware of it, and I look at it and I sit with it, and it's interesting to see, like, from the highest truth you're speaking to, where I am a divine being, and then watch the thoughts of doubt or whatever arise, and then to reflect on other times when this has happened, and I made choices out of these feelings or thoughts of doubt, and took me down a certain path. And even though I carry my highest truth with me, and in most of my interactions, but if I make a decision not quite from there, and then that leads to me trying to hold my highest truth, even though I've started a path without that integrity, has been an interesting experience, and on a divine level, I understand, and I know I've been shown that my journey of awakening, and to fully standing in my higher truth is divinely planned, so that I can share it with others, because I incarnated into to an atheist family, and I had no idea about so many things I've had to unlearn on my journey, and to still find that forgiveness for myself, and just love for others, loving forgiveness for others that might have tried to manipulate or control me, not necessarily consciously, but because of where they were at on their journey. And
Yeah.
and then to forgive myself for accepting these lower truths and acting upon those. Yeah, it's quite the journey.
Yeah, it is. You end up getting rid of pretty much everything. We can talk about it around here. Dean's probably talking about it with you, where effectively Mike's the same boat. We relinquish all value. We get to a point where there is no value left. We are valueless, we are worthless and hopeless, but the values are all gone. Everything is taken out of the human experience, all the value, all of the fake values. and all of this discordant values, because as much as it's silly, it's a lot easier and a lot simpler to discard everything and start again. But so many keep hold of beliefs. So the beliefs stay in there as a subliminal, subjective input to lots of things that they need to be filtered out. They need to be sieved out, these false beliefs that come in and mimic. So we've done quite a bit of this, but then once you get to that place of where there is no value, this place of, well, what is that? Then you can then you get the chance to, well, then you begin to rewrite your script. Then you can add value back. And this is where you're coming from a purer place of being very refined about what you choose to be valuable, because it has to be unlimited. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a trap like you did before of limitation. And we're at a stage now where that's not what we want, is it, Henry? No, we're not going back into that route of limitation, because it implodes and causes collapse. And we know this through patterning. And what you were just saying there is, even with the purest of intentions, the actions still fell to what would be classed as shit. But pure intentions were hidden behind an emotional driver, which was impure, corrupt, which hides behind motivational benevolence in the intention. The intention is good. I don't knock people's intentions, but when I ask them, is the internet unstable?
Right, you're good.
When I ask them why they're doing something, they give me details, excuses, and reasons to hide their emotional driver. So the emotional driver is the selfish one, and it hides itself behind pseudo benevolence. When you start to question why people are doing things, the last place they want to tell you is for this driver. It wants to stay hidden. So it creates lots of beautiful stories up here about what's going to happen. This is what I'm doing. This is the one that's driving it, because there's self gain at the end of it, or there's self gain within it. There's something within it, and these can change. These can be released if the motivation is taking you somewhere. I'll give you one, for instance, again with Brother Mike, left Denmark to come to Thailand to build bamboo houses for people, and there was a certain amount of an emotional driver within his decisions to leave Denmark, that by the time he got to Thailand and sat with I for a while, that emotional driver had released. So instead of going out and fomenting that plan based on that original emotion, the plans were released too, because the drive now changed. So even though the plan, Michael could have, or anybody could market the plan as beautiful, the problem was the drive wasn't, and the plan's marketing was based on a manipulation of beautiful, which when the drive changed, there was no need for the plan. It changed. So we can move the emotional drivers by recognizing them on the path before they collapse, and realigning them and realigning our concepts. So when we're discussing about why we're doing something, there would be no for them. It's not for them, is it? Who are they if there's only one? If there's only you, then this is part of that objective version of reality. There's only one. There's only one energy, and everything is an aspect of it. So who are they? I'm doing it for them. There is no them. You're creating a them to justify what you're doing. You can't do it for somebody unless they've asked you to do it for them. You can't decide for them arbitrarily that you're doing things for them. I need to heal people into the future. Well, you first and foremost is you need people to heal. So you need people to be sick so that you can heal them. Is that what you wish to create by saying that you wish to heal people? Have you been asked to heal people? Has people come to you and said, please heal me? Or are you creating people to be healed because you feel that you can heal them? A lot of this twists and turns when we're looking at the driver behind things. When we're looking at why you are doing something. Is it for them? Have they asked you for it? Do they want it? Has there been any communication with them? No. Okay. So who's it for then?
Can you speak to exactly what you're just talking to with the perspective of what is your driver with sharing GPMS with others? Like, you know, can you explain how how that happens with your perception of the external and the other, you know, people or beings on the planet?
I share GPMS to my brothers and sisters to release, so they can release themselves from their hell that they are believe of themselves not to be in, but absolutely are. There is nothing in GPMS that I get. We don't get any reward for GPMS. GPMS is a reward in itself, but in the pathway to it, there's no remuneration. This is all done. Let's say there's some out there that appreciate what it is that we do, but many don't yet. So these things are higher truths, and all the rest of this is not from a place of an emotional driver. It's from a place of what I would have wished to receive when I was unaware. I would love for somebody to have told me some of the stuff that I'm able to now to pass on to others through my own experience. There was a time that wasn't a time for that, so this is a time for it now. And I've said to the universe openly, I've made a promise to the universe that I will do nothing. I will do nothing, but I will be everything that it wishes me to be. And I will sit and wait until the universe sends me what it is that they wish me to do. And I'll work on those prompts. But this is nothing to do with Lee and everything to do with what Lee's here for. So there's my drivers for a lot of this, brother. And one of the biggest drivers for GPMS was seeing the state of the world in 2020, 2021, well, 2019. Having been an atheist and a conspiracy theorist all of my life, I wasn't averse to the idea that there was some shite going on here that wasn't very good. A lot of this came to the fore in 2020, came really to the fore in 2020. And in 2016, I'd already prophesized, conceptualized in a bar with friends, saying, when they asked me what I thought was going to happen. And when I said within 4 or 5 years, there will be a mass extinction event of humanity. And I just hope that humanity are the ones that recover and these demons don't. But I couldn't see any way around it. And in 2020, early doors, I realized that the financial systems were all to cock, and that it was all stolen. It was all a little bit further wrong than wrong, and exactly who was behind all of this and what was going on, or at least a lot more to that, and realized that there was still no way out. So with that Ovid thing with the C in front of it, what's that, 100 sheep, the whatever it is, and all of that going on, there was a depopulation event, mass. And then the idea came about an unlimited monetary supply based on intrinsic value. Before GPMS had been even named, the concept had come up. And in dealing with another one who was dealing with off-ledger accounts and money, trillions of dollars that could be released but never were, I then saw there's a way through this, and immediately all of the dominoes fell into place. The ducks fell into order with regards to, no, this doesn't require a mass extinction event. That can actually be done with zero harm, zero chaos, actually, if people choose it. The chaos is only internally created. It's extrapolated externally. So if ones can release their chaos into hope, into an actualized hope, they can bring about a change in this planet without a mass extinction event. And I was all in for that, not really knowing that it was a part of a divine mission that I was already on, but now I do. So these were sort of non-emotional drivers. These were more, this is inevitable drivers. So when you understand the function of things, you don't need emotion. You don't need those other forms. You can see where it's going and where it's inevitable. So extrapolating a lot of this inevitably, once you understand the function of things and you see what's going on, then you can realize that GPMS is inevitable. And we just had to bring it into manifest. And that's what we've done. Now it's inevitable. It was prior. We've just played our part in the beginning of that, brother, by making it manifest. It will become undeniable shortly, but it's always been inevitable, if that answers that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, you can make a little clip out of that, Lee. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of this is all down to that honor and virtue. See, in 2019, when I went through my end of the dissension, self-acceptance, actually, it's just what for I took all 7 years of it until that self-acceptance became evident, and it was through a fight. You know, I thought I knew better. I thought I thought I had all the knowledge. I thought I knew a lot, and then I realized I knew nothing, and that released me. That released I in the understanding that you know nothing. It released I completely, and in that release, then I found rebirth. So I released everybody else from all of the concepts I had. I released I from all of the concepts I had. I fomented love throughout my life, love being truth. I harmonized all of those frequencies, and I would hazard to say in 2019 that the chakral area, the chakral frequencies within this physical vessel, or the construct that I am currently occupying, was released. So I haven't been subject to those emotional layers since 2019. And prior to that, I was 49 years old, and I was subject to them for 49 years, and they weren't there anymore. These concepts, from that point onwards, I was extremely interested in the function of that. What happened? Why? And I dissected myself, brother, in a way of looking at it energetically. I took my consciousness apart and looked at what went wrong. Wrong conceptually. What functioned? What was corrupt? Where the function misaligned? What happened? And everything that I've been doing ever since has been studying those frequency levels, but from without being subject to them. So you can look at very objectively. When I was subject to them, I remember all of that very, very well, but it's got no emotional value to me. I just remember what it meant. Now I can look at it objectively and see what others are acting like and see it clear as day. What frequency they are, where they are, where about in here in this sacral area that they are reacting from, not responding. The sacral doesn't respond, it reacts. So this pride kicks in, drops you into the lower feelings, and this is where this all hides. And it represents itself as it's the base levels of shame. Inside there is the top levels of the root would be lust, desires, and all of these things. But the sacral's got all of the other things within it: humiliation, blame, anger, all of these things that are destructive to one's own energetic pathways. They are lesser thoughts. They are primal. They are actually nefariously negated. And this is part of what's been ongoing. I'll give it you, brother. I think you already know, but just knocking out, harmonizing some of the other nefarious technologies here, which were actually biohacking or hacking into the sacral field, the sacral areas field, which would be the lower part of the stomach for those that don't understand, but this is a lower frequency band. It's a sort of orangey down to red frequency band, orange and red, like the pits of hell, hellish frequency bands, the lower ones. And God, I forgot where I was. So forgotten where I was. In studying that anyway, and opening all of this up, but not being subject to it, we could see that it was unnecessary. It really is the pits of hell. It creates. It seems as though what it does is it mimics the consciousness through what would be the reptilian brain. The part of that, possibly. This is Lee guessing. I'm not sure of the exact how, but nevertheless, it feels like it's very real in the mind. So it gets into the mind and acts as though it's conscious, but it's lower. So it's utilizing a lower aspect of the mind, and it hasn't got virtue. It hasn't got honesty. It hasn't got honor. It's got no integrity at all. All it wants is selfish gain. And it needs that from another. It needs another to believe it, to prove it's right. And this is what hides in those bottom layers. And this is what the ego does so well to suppress and keep that hidden by telling the mind all of these stories. And this is where the basis of a lot of the distorted belief systems are, my friend. The ones where self-righteousness comes in, or I did this because, and that's the right thing, I know. And it's also another one where the feelings have been held as if in those belief systems. So where one's feelings, where ones have had feelings in the past, what they believe those feelings to represent. And because they've gone through this a few times and those feelings have been trustworthy, they don't question their feelings. Actually, they don't question their belief about their feelings. So what they do is they say, well, I feel this and it means that. No, it means that is an overlay. Does it really mean that? And that's the part that we're struggling with. So I think not struggling, obstacles. So I think what we're doing right now is harmonizing and removing a lot of this nefarious hacking of this area, which is taking control of the actions of one through a self-justification or a demonic piggybacking of the biofrequency into thought and into belief, almost like puppeteering, isn't it? And allowing ones to release their own shame. Shame, that's the one. Distrust, shame, their own shame. It's shame which is holding one's back, their own shame for the lack of love that they've shown for themselves. And that's what forgiveness does. When you forgive yourself, you're showing yourself that you do not need to be ashamed of your actions. From a higher level, you can release them through forgiveness and change your actions so that they never happen again. So the gratitude can come from release, and the forgiveness is not for the other. You don't apologize to another for what you did. You apologize to the other for what you did, and you'll never do it again because you've learned the lesson from it. So you apologize. You know, it's a different way. You're not on your knees begging for forgiveness. What you are is you're forgiving yourself. And if the other understands you empathetically, they'll say, perfect, thank you so much. Because they can rely on you again. You can become trustworthy again, possibly. So a lot of this is expansive, brother, and it all moves forward. But of course, it's baby steps. It's one step at a time. And let me just take this one step further into frequency and into the higher frequency. Lots of people talk about these things as if they're something, and they're very difficult to understand. Higher frequency is honoring you. The more that you honor the divine being that you are, even though you might not believe you are, the higher the frequency that you operate in, the more you act with integrity, loyalty, trust, and virtue, the more faith you have in yourself, the less fear you act upon, the higher your frequency will become. Frequency is the amount of energy you've got spinning within you, and frequency is based on light. Energy is light. The more light you have within you, the more information you have within you. The more information you have access to, the more options you have. Henry was talking about free will a minute ago. The more options you have does not prescribe you free will. It shows you 99% of what you wouldn't do and 1% of what you would, because there's only one high truth. Now, how you represent that truth in form can look like anything. But the truth must hold the function, and the function must be that highest truth. So however you represent it must always be referring to it. You can represent it in so many different ways, but it must refer to your highest. So you can always go back to it. If you find yourself floundering out here because you can't go back to it, it's because you lost the truth. You lost the connection. So with a lot of this, that's what we're looking at with this. So the frequency rises with honor. The frequency rises with trust. If you say you're going to do something, do you do it? If you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, are you there? If you don't turn up on time, do you make amends? If you make a contract with somebody, do you fulfill it? Do you honor your word or not? And this is how you rise your frequency, and this gives you more information. And the more information you've got, the higher the perspective you can see, the more the overview, the more the objective truth can be seen, and the less of the subjective. And that causes a much more peaceful flow, a much more peaceful life, a peaceful existence through self-choice to be honorable. And we can talk to physics, we can talk to all of these things, but the physics becomes self-evident once you understand cause and effect. The physics is cause and effect. You do this, the universe does that. There's the physics. Now, once you realize that you're in charge, then you script the universe. But until you realize you're in charge, the universe scripts you. And there we are. Can you honor that? And if you can, everything is yours. But also, everything is everybody else's. It can't just be yours, can it? Because everybody else is you. So the equality comes in, and the harmony and all of this comes in. It levels the playing field, and you treat each with humbleness. You're not above anybody. You're not below anybody. Nobody's above or below you. And you can speak to them. You speak to whoever it is equally. It's beautiful, brother. But this is all about that understanding of the, if I do this, then that. If I do this, then that. Okay, what am I going to do? And that's self-accountability, self-responsibility. That was a bit of a ramble. You still there, my
Yeah,
friend?
the connection was not the best for some of that. Like,
Oh, I
yeah,
think
I'm here. I don't think your connection's the best, but
two
some
seconds.
of what you were saying was cutting in and out there. But
2 seconds.
I got the message. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that when I first heard about GPMS, an aspect of my soul came through that just resonated with what it is, and that I came here to be a part of, sharing it, anchoring it into this reality. But at the same time, when others couldn't resonate with it or see it as clearly as I could, on a personal emotional level, I would get discouraged, and like I just couldn't comprehend why others couldn't get it, and I would start making decisions that, out of that response, out of that emotional reaction that I would have. And it's just been a huge process for me up until now to really let go of the need of the validation from others, of that perception, recognition that I know to be true. And it's just so relieving now to let go of that need, from others, and to just be still with that truth, and not be needing that response from others, but truly to be relaxed in the knowing that it is common sense, and that others will see it, because it really is as simple as everybody acknowledging, or acknowledging and choosing to acknowledge that we are divine beings with an unlimited intrinsic value from, out from within. This value that we have from within is unlimited, and by everybody coming together and acknowledging that, we move into that reality where everybody has everything that they need to exist on this planet, and to enjoy it, and to be in this new reality where there is no fear, there is lack, and to actually share that reality truly. We embody that in the now.
This is the beauty of that unlimited. So as ones release their limitations, they become unlimited. And when they start to think in an unlimited spectrum, then GPMS is available to them. But whilst they have limitation with their own belief systems and their own concepts, then they limit what can be to what they believe. And their belief systems are faulty, flawed, corrupt. So they believe corruption is the answer. They believe a faulty, flawed, manipulative system is the corrupt answer, because that's what they believe intrinsically as they operate each day and justify their actions. So these limitations are caused by self-righteousness, self-belief. There's no reason to be limited. You don't limit a child, do you? You don't tell the child what it can do. As far as the child's concerned, it can do whatever it wants. It's got no fear. There's no limitation in there. Yeah, into the more indoctrinated later versions of the human experience, all sorts of reasons why not come up. And of course, there's none of that in a child's mind. There's just yes. So these acceptances, this instant, okay, there's wisdom comes in. I get that, and other things, but they still should not negate the childish innocence of acceptance, the childlike innocence of acceptance with wisdom. So this is where we are when we're sharing this GPMS with ones, is they don't want freedom because they haven't freed themselves yet, but they do speak to freedom as if they have. And this is where that inversion is inside their own minds. They fully believe they're free, whilst completely denying the prison walls and the prison guards and the officers all around them and their lack of freedom. That's all not seen, but freedom is seen. And that's the inverted. That's not free. You're not free. But when one's realized what that is and break down their own walls, their own internal prisons, their own virtues starts to shine through, then GPMS is everything everybody wants functionally. GPMS is not a form, doesn't look like anything. It's what the form does. It's why the form does it, because it allows for equality. It allows for intrinsic value of an unlimited nature. It allows for unlimiting the limited completely. Removal of scarcity and poverty completely. Scarcity and poverty mindsets, belief systems. It unlimits belief systems into one that is multidimensional, omnidimensional, as opposed to fixated upon small. It's wonderful, wondering and gasping in awe at the large without worrying about fear, without worrying about complication, because it knows it is everything and no thing at once. So in this release into the unlimited, then we can see GPMS, but ones show us through their actions why they are limited. I tend to share with them that I see limitation within their concepts. They don't tend to like that, but that's okay. I've given them my truth. They've received their truth and they can go away with it and they can work on it and they can come back later and tell me whether I was right or wrong in their opinion. It matters not. The truth changes as we move forward. And those that are fixated upon a truth get left behind as the others move forward, and then they have to play catch up. Okay. The path is perfect for each, whichever path you choose. One of the very early ones that I adopted, brother, was when people show you who they are, believe them. So I believe people when they show me who they are. They don't believe what I see, but I believe them. So I allow them, accept them for what they are, for who they are. For who they are portraying, not what they are. What they are is a divine being that is far past what they are portraying. So I know they are this, and they are pretending to be this with their acting. They're acting in this mode. So their representation of themselves is an act, but they don't believe themselves to be actors. Okay. Okay, I'll talk to the higher one. I'll talk to the higher version. You've shown me who you are. You've shown me your act. I'll talk to the higher version of you, and we can get the truth across. And it can be taken as it is. But we've got to break down these belief systems, and we've got to not accept them. We've got to not tolerate them, but point them out and give them the truth, as we would wish to have received the truth. Maybe when we were a little bit confused or a little bit ignorant. Would we have accepted the truth then? No, probably not. So if they don't, it's no shock, is it? Because we probably wouldn't have, but we would have appreciated it later. And that's the part of this that takes the time and the patience, is to understand that planting the seed isn't about it growing instantaneously, but it's there now. And once it's been seen, it can't be unseen. It can just be denied. It still grows. So in a lot of this, there's been a lot of release. There's been a lot of understanding of the other. There's been a lot of compassion and empathy, but put into wisdom, which is the step above unconditional love, is wise love, where if I give you an egg and you throw it on the floor and smash it, I'll give you a second egg. You throw it on the floor and smash it. Am I going to give you a third? Well, you should do. I thought you should hold it. All of these reasons why I should. No, I shouldn't. No. Not until you can be trusted not to smash them. Are you trustworthy? And then you'll say yes or no. I'll give you a third egg. What do you do with that? So it's not what you get. It's what you do with what you get. It's not what you receive. It's what you do with what you receive. And in the receipt of GPMS, many dismiss it. Okay, that's the value they place in themselves. That's how much acceptance they've got of another, little to none. That's a projection of their own self, right? It's not about you. You're giving them something as a gift, and they are rejecting it out of hand because of fear. Who's that about? It's about them. Okay, that's that. We can micro macro that, and we can release them. They've had their seed. They've had their information. That's all you need to do. Once we release the idea that we need to be received, or we need to be understood, or we need to be Responded to. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Just share with your brothers and sisters. And regardless of what they do with that gift, you gave it with a pure intention. How they received it is up to them. And that will be their effect. They will receive their effects from that cause. And so a lot of this is a lot about release, brother, as you said, sitting back, stepping back, but not releasing everybody, detaching them all. It's releasing the subjective nature or the emotional body, the emotional nature, and seeing it more consciously, seeing it more observationally, understanding what's going on, but also having your heart wide open, full of what would be called love or truth or empathy or compassion, but also understanding it from the consciousness level of what is futile, what is non-acceptant, what is less than virtuous, what is not honorable, and how often you'll put up with that. So this is that internal boundary. How often do you lie to others? How often do you steal? How often do you manipulate others? How often do you cheat? How much of that do you accept in yourself? Once you get to the point of non-acceptance of that completely, because it's not virtuous, then why would you accept it in another? You would guide them, wouldn't you? You would educate them. You would point it out when they're doing it so that they can see that they're doing it, because currently they're blind to that. And the more we do this, the more we add wisdom to love rather than acceptance and tolerance, the more we can point out that which is less than virtuous. Who are you to decry what's virtuous? I'm not. This isn't about a rule that we're making arbitrarily. This is about the way the universe works. Do things that contain selfishness and watch what happens over a period of 5 to 10 years, not 5 to 10 minutes. See the effects of your cause and watch them completely fold and disappear into ashes. And then tell me it's us that's creating. No, virtue is a functional part of creation. If you are not virtuous, creation will nudge you back to virtue. It did for I, and it's done for you, and it's done for everybody else every time we were doing this in the past. So why do people think it's not going to do the same now? As long as we understand creation, then we can use words like virtue without it being an arbitrary interjection of a rule. No, this is self-imposed. This is not imposed from the outside in. We're just gifting you the guidance of looking for it on the inside. All of these rules and conditions that must come in, loyalty, trust, honesty, integrity, virtue, all of these are self-imposed. They're a self-choice. You choose to do them because you know they're the only way to act after you've collapsed enough times, and that there's no need for a reward. The reward in itself is being. So we can release a lot of these things. And I don't know if that makes sense, brother. I think it does. Gone round a little bit and then come back to a still point. So fingers crossed that sort of went fluidly.
Yeah, it does, Lee. It is a bit of a just, yeah, I'm gonna maybe change the topic a little bit because, I was just thinking while you were speaking about, our conversation yesterday. We were talking about GPMS and how really it kind of like clicked for me that all that's really required for the information to spread is for the actual recognized leaders of people to share it with others and to see it, within themselves, obviously. And when I say leaders, it could be anyone that has a big audience, whether they're in a celebrity or a spiritual teacher or even in like so-called politics. And so I don't know, I just feel like speaking to that because people watching this may be able to see it within themselves and be in a similar kind of experience where they know about GPMS and they are acting, with their moral integrity to the best of their ability or most of the time. And yeah, I guess I just curious for you to speak to that a little bit because it is so simple, it is so simple, and anyone can get it at any moment, and like I said, we're just acknowledging our intrinsic value and letting others know that they can do the same. We all come together under the simple principle of do no harm, and we create a world free of poverty, starvation, lack, stress, all these things.
The devil hides in the detail. And this is one of the things about belief systems why ones reject, is because they like complication to hide behind, and they can blame complication for their own feelings. A lack of control, lack of will, this is somebody else's fault. So the blame is always, the blame is a hiding place for that which wishes to hide or deceive. And therefore simplicity is not the answer for these. They want complication. They need an answer to every single question that they can come up with. And if you did give an answer to every single question they could come up with, they would find some that you couldn't attempt to anyway, because they can't agree to something when they have limitation within their agreements. So they can't release themselves into that area of equality when they feel that they are owed. Now, I'm going to take it slightly back into the psychological or the emotional first, and say that all reaction, I'm going to put this down as all reaction, pretty much all reactive states come from a place of injustice, an internal deep held sense of injustice, where immediately somebody has taken something from you or done something to you, and immediately they need to take accountability for it, and certainly you don't, and they are owing you something. So this comes in many, many different forms, but the function is injustice. It wasn't fair. That wasn't fair. Could be triggered by anything, but there's the kicker. So the first thing is that's not fair. When ones are looking at equality around the world, the first thing they describe is what's not fair about it. They'll look at, well, who's going to collect my rubbish? Who's going to get my garbage? That's not fair. What am I getting out of this? What have they done to deserve all of this? No, I get all of these complications come in from the sacral area. And all of these are lesser thoughts and complications via belief systems. So yes, the idea is that the leaders could accept GPMS and share it to the people. We haven't been able to get one leader to accept GPMS. In fact, very few of the leaders so-called out there would even sit and talk with us. And the ones that did, arbitrarily rejected with mockery. Airy Fairy was one of the leaders. She told us after 2 hours of us discussing her perspectives, it's all airy fairy, because we couldn't answer her questions based on the details that she wanted about the limitations she was bringing in about the future. Where's the protection? Where's the security? What are we going to do about criminals? Well, the problem is there is going to be no criminals. There is no need to protect yourself because you are God. Everybody here is God. They will be embodying a higher frequency of being, and there will be nobody causing any harm because we've all agreed to do no harm. So why would you insert protection? That's not good enough. Those answers are not good enough. We want detail. These negations are not of the others, not of the leaders wanting to benefit their followers. They're of the leaders wanting to benefit themselves by maintaining their followers' followship of that leader. If we take away the authority of the leader and give the authority to the followers, what's going to make the leader special? These are all contemplations that come into the reptilian mind or the lower mind and hide themselves away in denial, in refusal, in reasons why not, in doubts and complications, so that they can say, no, not for me. No, not for my people. You're not trustworthy. You've got the word global in your name. You've got this, you've got whatever it is, it matters not. They'll find reasons why not. Look, global, what are you? And you don't, you know, the earth is flat, by the way, don't you know? Whatever it is, it makes no difference as to what they will bring in to say no. And they won't even look into it. They're not interested. So these leaders, these so-called leaders, are probably more than likely to be footnotes in a side channel back page somewhere in the book of no ones later, because they aren't leaders. They aren't New World leaders. They are Pied Pipers leading ones astray for ones to find their own path once they've fed up following these Muppets down those sideways paths. And I use a lot of these words without contempt, it's tedious watching this ongoing with so many putting their belief in these ones and so few putting their belief in this one, which is actually themselves. So many are seeking leadership from another, yet not willing to look for it within, and are True leaders create leaders out of anybody that follows them. True leaders don't want followers, they want leaders alongside them. These things are not evident inside the existing structures of leadership on many levels, including a lot of the alternative ones. So if ones are watching this and do understand GPMS and are following what's being said here, with virtue and honor and the integrity being the keys, the most valuable things that you can honor and embody currently in this temporal physics, share GPMS with others. Share it with whoever you feel, with gay abandon, with absolute unabashedness. Tell them the truth in the inevitability of what will be, and freedom will be enhanced and embodied by every single brother and sister on this planet, or none will have it. Tell them the divine plan with authority and stick that into them and give them that seed. Let them do with it as they will. GPMS is not being built for you. GPMS is not being done for you. It is being done by you, by us, all of us together. We all come together in unity. We create the form for GPMS. You create the form for GPMS. It's not being created for you. It's unlimited. It's only going to be limited when we come together and we decide what form it's going to take. And we move that progressively through and unlimit it so every single soul upon this planet can resume their lives in heaven on earth. And this is what we're going to do. And this is guaranteed. It's absolute. So these ones that don't wish to share, why? Why are they holding people back? Why are they stopping the people releasing themselves into heaven? Why aren't they giving them that? What is it about them that makes them so special that they can keep this from people and act as an anchor to the progression? These concepts and all of these things don't look good. They are not a good look when we look in the future backwards. These ones that are hoping to leave a legacy, earning money where money is no value at all, having houses and having all of these things when they are valueless, but they think they're valuable. When we get to the place where they're valueless, I wonder how valuable these ones will feel their input was. But they'll have to forgive themselves too, the same as we have to forgive ourselves for our actions. And I look forward to the day when everybody can go through their own self-acceptance and their own self-judgment and release themselves into self-forgiveness and start to act with some sort of equality. And then possibly we could use the word civilized society. But until that day, this is barbaric and savage with, yes, other things ongoing, which I'm not going to go into any more words that are negative or negatively oriented. There you go, brother. That's a little bit back on that, on leadership, supposed at the moment.
Yeah, and at the same time, I do feel to talk to, the leadership that does exist, in this now, in terms of GPMS, like I see Lodi in the Philippines, and it's just amazing. She's just like, she sees what we are. We're equal. We're equal. We are sparks of the creator, and she's gone out into the Philippines and she shared it with people, and there's like, I think if you count the consents that haven't been added to the website yet, there's like 80,000 people. And it really just started from her, the one person. She invited you in to share with others, but from her, there's other people sharing it now, and the true leaders are arising that really see their value from within and wish to let others know that you are also unlimited, and we have this higher choice, and they're making the choice. And in a way, the Philippines are leading the world, showing them what's possible, and how simple it is. And the same thing for me here in Nepal. Like the first two people I met in the country asked me why I'm here, and I start talking about GPMS, and they're just like, wow, and they see it straight away, because these people actually in the so-called East, they have a much stronger connection to the divine, to God, through their culture, and they can see the reality of what makes sense here, and it's so beautiful, and I do see it, growing. It's interesting as like I go through my process of letting go of things, and then you see like these other people that live to have so little in other ways, but they find it so easy to just see it. But I am also aware that, you know, some of us that struggling with some of these, or have struggled with seeing our intrinsic value and standing in it all the time, because, you know, we came from a Western, you know, upbringing or conditioning. We're going through this process to be the leaders that share it with our peers and those that we come in contact with. And as we move through it, it actually becomes easier and easier, and you become more still, like I was saying, without that need for validation from the external, but with that knowing from within of what the highest choice is.
Well, Lodi, I mean, what we're seeing with some of these sister Lodi is awesome. But we're seeing that ones that aren't leaders are being seen as leaders, and they're not proclaiming themselves to be leaders. In fact, quite the opposite. But others will see them as leaders. And this is the growth of the pure, because the pure doesn't want to be a leader. No way, everybody's a leader. But okay, if you want me to do this, I can do that for you. You know, and people will start to orbit around people, and this is where ones will rise, the cream will rise. But we can also see that, or the higher consciousness will rise, whatever the virtues will rise, and be honored. See, most of this is changing value systems. So currently we value money, we value health, we value money, we value things that are outside of us. Really, health's okay, but things that are outside of us is where the value is: houses, cars, material stuff. But really, we must honor ourselves, and the value comes from within. So once we start to do that, we can then see how others act. Are they loyal? Are they trustworthy? Are they honorable? And therefore, we can start to aspire to them. And this is the roles that we play. So Sister Lodi's got that purity about her, which will mean that others will honor her. They will value her. They will value her input, not her money, not her other things, materialistic things, but her truth, her purity. That's what they will honor, and that's how she will rise. And this is how we're seeing the collapse of the other ones who are into it for material, and the rise of the ones that aren't. We've also got at this point, we are understanding that we got 5.03 million divine brothers and sisters echelon, divine designations upon this planet as a ground crew. 5.03 million. Each one of those in their power, and I'm not saying they all are. I'm not saying that all of them understand what they are. Most don't, I think, from judging by experience. But nevertheless, they are still here. And this is where the unity comes. This is what's called quality over quantity. Yes, there's the human souls upon the planet, but they've got a collective consciousness, which is very varied. The divine groups, divine crew are here specifically. And in that unity of the divine group, everything changes. Of the divine designations, 5 million Christs, Buddhas, Krishnas upon the planet working together. Well, each divine one in their power affects 1 million lesser consciousness or lesser frequencies, can harmonize up to 1 million other frequencies, they say. There's apparently 8 billion upon the planet, which is probably bullshit. So there's probably more like 6, possibly less by now. And so if each divine one coming together has a morphogenetic effect over 1 million, then 6,000 coming together is 6 billion. There's 5.03 million upon the planet, and we can't get, I'd like to say we can't get 6 to sit down in a room, but we have got a few more than 6 because we've got them already within GPMS. But certainly the ones that are coming outside are not uniting around GPMS, as is their divine mission. So what we're seeing is a separation through shame of the divine echelon upon the planet who haven't dealt with their inner work yet and are maintaining other aspects of what they believe themselves to be from the lesser and the lower aspects of the consciousness, whilst proclaiming to be operating from the higher versions. This must come to a divine conclusion, and this must all align. There is no blame on this. Yet there isn't a choice taken by those that are in that position yet. And many people do understand what they are. as in a divine one, or as a whatever, an echelon or a delegate or on a mission. Many people understand that. Yet when we say that GPMS is a divine plan, they don't see it. They see that their mission is more important, or their solution is more important. A viable version of this would be Miss Gagan, Kim Gagan, and Michael Telliger to a degree, with these offset off scoops that are purporting themselves to be the savior as an individual. They're deciding what everybody else does or can do as an individual. Well, that's not the divine plan. This is a team effort. If there was an individual effort going to be here, then it'd only be one of us. There isn't. So we're still in this boat, brother, at the moment, where we're still waiting for these ones patiently, with open arms, obviously. And even if the ones have rejected us in the past, we don't hold any blame against their negation and limitations. They can deal with that on their own self-judgment. We don't judge them. We just see them for what they are and release them to go and do what they need to do to harmonize it before they come back. These things are inevitable. So there's no blame held against the ones that have rejected us out of hand. We'll see where they are later, but they're always welcome back. Everybody is. This is the plan for humanity, chosen by humanity, and releases everybody to equality. How can we blame anybody for rejecting it? In the same way as we're not going to congratulate people for choosing it. It's you. It's each and every individual's choice to choose GPMS, but GPMS is choosing you. It's choosing you and your family. It's choosing you in love. It's choosing you in heaven. It's choosing you in God. When you're denying that, you're denying all of those and making a separation, which is blasphemous in itself, because what you're saying is you are separate to God. If everything is God, how can you be separate to God? Are you something outside of God? You create yourself, did you? What is it you think? But you don't think. You're negated to think. The logic is gone. The complexity is in, and negation sits in. So we don't need that. We don't need that within GPMS. It creates confusion. It creates distraction. All of these things are unnecessary. So divinely, you will be rejected. And you could even look at it as the divine signal in your mind to send you a little bit loopy for a minute and blame everybody for GPMS and run away sideways, like a few have. Call people inside GPMS evil, call it a cult. Tell us we're not using the correct syntax. Tell us we're using all sorts of different things that are wrong. Tell us all of those things and then bugger off and go and fix yourself and then come back later. We don't need this within GPMS. It doesn't enable the creation of it. But what it does do is destabilize the belief systems that are currently operating on the planet. So everything with regard to this is divinely perfect because we're bringing it to the surface to be seen and then discarded. If ones wish to maintain it, then they get discarded with it until they release it themselves and come back to a semblance of normality or divinity. So we are where we are with a lot of this. We anticipate this will move very, very quickly. Philippines has not just got the 80,000, which is what we've got somewhere near now. It's got 30 or 40 million ready to go inside the indigenous tribes. Yet the indigenous leaders, which know about GPMS, are still unwilling to align for whatever reason. But they will, and they're closer and closer and closer, and we're getting more and more and more information from the Philippines, more connecting. Of course, we've got India. That echelon in India is awesome, and it just needs a break. It needs a little bit of a release, and all of a sudden, India could fly. And 1.5 billion apparently. Well, just call it a billion. That'll do. So there's a billion in India, 120 million in Philippines, and all of a sudden you're into nearly a third or a quarter of the population of the planet in two countries. And in Africa, the echelons in Africa, the guys in Africa who are struggling with poverty, struggling with lack mentality and scarcity and fear. But our African brothers and sisters will unite. And there's another billion there. What's the other? China, another one. And we've got a few things going on over there too. The Chinese would be happy to escape this, even though many of them are so caught up in capitalism that they believe capitalism is the be all and end all, like an awful lot of people. What are we going to do if we're not in capitalism? There'll be no shops, there'll be no nothing, everything will stop. It's been that indoctrinated into the mind that this prison planet requires these things to run it. Otherwise, the people will just tear themselves apart in a post-apocalyptic zombie film. It's what people believe that will happen if we take down capitalism and remove the idea of governance, putting administrations in the place of governance that administer to the people's needs. Well, what's that do about the criminals? Who's going to lock them up? What about the people who steal things? What about all of these contemplative negatives that ones decide to come up with in rejecting that which is freedom? And we can look at a prison cell, you know, if you Stockholm syndrome and all of these things, when you've been in a prison all of your life, what's outside that prison wall is terrifying. What's inside the prison is very well known and is comfortable. Doesn't matter how many beatings you get taken per day, at least you're alive, right? Outside that wall, you'll be dead in minutes. Yeah, but outside that wall is heaven. And we are systematically, if we've not already done it, taking every single block, every single prison block out of this existence, so that ones who wish to be in a prison will be sat in the middle of heaven, hoping for the prison walls to come back. And they won't. Sooner or later, people will see. Sooner or later, people will see through this. And there's not a lot of time left, I don't believe, in those choices. So ones are going to face their self-acceptance. They're going to face a moment of self-judgment. They're going to face a moment of choice. And they can choose lesser or they can choose more. But they can't sit in complacency on the fence. They must make a choice. So we are where we are with GPMS, brother. It is the ultimate choice, but it's also the ultimate denial, if you will. For the ones that deny it, they're going to go and implode. And for the ones that choose it, they're going to go and excel to a degree, dependent upon your path. But there's the two options. One's implosive, one's entropic and one's negentropic. One wastes energy, one amplifies it. Over to you, brother.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from there, Lee, but it is that simple. That is the truth. And yeah, I know that people will choose it because it is common sense, and when they realize that that it is common sense, and that it almost is like they have no other choice, because they don't wish to keep looping in a system that doesn't honor their true value, you know. And so it's as simple as choosing the system that is unlimited and coming together and doing that. And I trust that at least one person watching this will be able to see that and step into their, you know, divine beingness and share with others too. Yeah.
One of the problems, and you know this, my friend, and one of the things that we've been going through right now is that we don't tend to want to change until we've suffered enough. So it generally, it has been, it certainly was for that my choice of change was through the choice to end suffering. It wasn't because I wanted to change. And in fact, a lot of my suffering, I was happy to continue, be it alcoholism, be it being abused by others, manipulated emotionally, and all sorts of different things. It doesn't matter. I was quite happy with it. I didn't want to change it. But the suffering that it brought me, that's what caused the change. So we are in this place now where ones are choosing suffering, and suffering is self-imposed. Yes, the governments can impose things upon you, but your own emotional suffering is down to you. How you deal with every second of the day is down to you. You have a choice. Any emotional suffering is a choice. You don't need to. You can just as well choose not to, regardless of the environment, regardless of what's going on outside of you. So suffering is a choice, and effectively it's a choice for change. And the more you suffer, the more likely you are to change until you've had enough of it, and then you do change. So we seem to be in this wiser aspect of love that says, okay, suffer. It's not going to cause you any harm. I don't need to sympathize with you. It's not going to hurt you. Eventually you'll stop. If you wish to put your hand in that flame, put it in. Oh, you want to do it again? Okay. Again. All right. It's not going to hurt you, is it? But you're going to learn not to. and I can't stop you. So we're doing the same thing with a lot of this. That emotional suffering, I wish I could take it off everybody. I honestly do. And that's what I thought I could do when I'd gone through my mode and I was sharing it with everybody. This will help. And it will. It would. A lot of the truths that I hold and we can speak to would seriously help people release their own suffering. And if they chose it, but they don't, they reject it and they choose suffering instead. And they'd rather spend their time in despair, hiding behind blame, than actually face their own demons and their own fears and release them with love, with acceptance, without condition, to just be, but not affect them anymore. And love those aspects of you that weren't loved prior, that were shouting and screaming from within to love them, but you didn't, you denied them, and they caused you shame, despair, humiliation, blame, all of these things. These just require love, and they need unconditionality, but they need to be seen first and not denied. And again, all of this releases into GPMS. All of those lower forms of experience, suffering, and all the rest of this, it's not part of the creation of the new world. In fact, it's part of the implosion of the old. Those who are choosing to suffer are imploding in the old world. They are suffering deaths. They're not deaths, they're deaths of certain aspects of their frequencies. And they may feel like deaths to the demons that were piggybacking those because they can no longer access them, and they'll kick and scream. But it matters not. They are the individual's choice, so they've got to go through that. And in the creation of the new world, we can't bring those corruptions within into it. So they don't get into GPMS. They are not introduced to GPMS. They're not part of the core of GPMS. They can't be a fiction, a fragment of a fiction, no, a faction of the new world. They can't be in the design. They can't be in the design process. So those that are containing them, hiding them, suppressing them, they'll get seen. They have to come out and be released. We leave the demons where they need to be, and that's behind in their own homes. We are not of here. This is a higher plane. Souls are at a higher frequency. This is not somewhere the souls come to visit. This is somewhere we are leaving. And the demons get left behind to do what they must do, and let creation do that. Creation has given humanity GPMS. Humanity can leave. All humanity have got to do is let the demons go, let their disparities, their divisions and their separations go, their belief systems go, and redefine everything and unite. That's what GPMS is, and that's the divine gift to the planet. But humanity have got to choose to let their demons go first, otherwise they can't bring them to the new world. And that's where we currently reside, in a sub-purgatory area, where many are trying to hold on to what they resemble to be themselves through an egoic desire to maintain some sort of form of individualization, carrying the old into the new. And as many will understand, you can't bring the camel through an eye of a needle, I think, something like that, whatever it is, I'm not sure. But you don't come through with the old. You come through clean, pure, driven. You come through you. You are you. You are more, so much more. And that's what you represent. And in unity, that is so incredible. In division, well, look what's happened. So yeah, brother, this is where we are currently, but this is all has to collapse, and hence we're bringing this information to the table, if you will, in no uncertain order. This isn't wishy-washy, is it? This isn't I'm not sure. This isn't uncertain. No. This is happening, and this is authoritarian, said with authority, delivered with divine authority and absoluteness. So ones can take it as they will. They can learn from it or they can release it. But GPMS is inevitable, and each choosing heaven on earth and occupying that space in their own time, dependent upon their own soul, you ain't stopping that. So well, let's keep going, my friend. We've got, what are we now? 5th of the 6th, June. Okay. How much longer we got to go? I don't know. Things are going to change shortly.
Yeah, and it is beautiful, you know, to see you and Rick and others just that you've been there the whole time, you know, and that knowing and that and I've felt it, even when doubts arise, the part of me that could see you guys in your assurance and your truth. It's been beautiful to see, and
Thank you, brother.
supportive, even when, like this fighting where, there's times where, and I'm sure many people can relate to what I'm speaking to, where we wish for this to be the reality, and we know this to be the highest truth, and still we experience, challenges and tests along the way. But once it's like once you've been presented with it, GPMS, it doesn't leave your sphere, and
No.
because it is self-evident, like you said, when we all acknowledge our unlimited intrinsic value, we can all live in that. And so it is growing. It just keeps growing, because one like, it doesn't leave your sphere once it's come into it. And so people share it once they can acknowledge it from within themselves. And it is so beautiful to see the whole big picture, where we came from and where we're going to. And it is a monumental thing in the eyes of humanity, and in the eyes of what we've come from. But once we're there, it just is what it is. It is true, it is simple, it is beautiful, it is harmony. And yeah, so we're doing it, and you're doing it, at some point at least.
Everybody will, and trying to make sense of the physics and the other bits and pieces. I mean, I'd like to go into a bit more of that, but I'd leave this one for now. I think we've done it. I don't know how hour and 40 or whatever long it is. Sort of bringing in GPMS and into a little bit of the virtues and all the rest of it is gravy. It all sort of flowed through. I don't think we need to go backwards now and recover any of the other things, but I think we might try to maybe ask some more questions, pertinent questions, in maybe a week's time, brother. Revisit this, maybe. We'll see what comes out of it, unless you've got anything else you'd like to go into right now.
No, that's probably good for now. Yeah, thanks, Leah. It's perfect. Yeah. Thank you for anyone that watching too. If you watched this far, yeah, thank you so much.
All right, bro. Have a wonderful rest of your day, my friend. Love, light, and gratitude. Much love to you, and enjoy Nepal, brother Dean, there with you. Again, on mission in Nepal, sharing whatever, forwarding your own individual mission, harmonizing yourself, and walking with more divine authority, brother. I look forward to watching you represent yourself more beautifully as we move forward. The same as all that have got any of this knowledge start to represent themselves in such a different way. They start to become more. That's enough, and that is the reward. Watching that rise, and knowing what it means, because as each of these rise, the whole collective is rising, and each one making their own choices is assisting everybody. And that is so wonderful. Blessed, Father, to be able to see that. So thank you all. Thank you very much, Henry. We'll speak again soon. Love you, man.
Much love, light, and gratitude, bro.